Have you ever felt paralyzed by your own thoughts? Like your mind keeps running in circles, showing you every possible way things could go wrong? You're not broken. You're just caught in a trap that millions face every day. This story might show you the way out. Once upon a time, in a quiet town nestled between rolling hills, there lived a young man named Thomas. Thomas was kind and thoughtful. He wanted nothing more than to live a full life. But there was something that held him back. Every decision, no matter how small, became a battle in his mind. He would stand at crossroads, frozen. His thoughts would spiral. What if he chose wrong? What if he failed? What if people judged him? One morning, Thomas woke up with excitement. A job opportunity had arrived. His dream position. But as he sat down to write the application, his hand stopped. What if I'm not qualified enough? He thought. What if they laugh at my letter? Hours passed. The blank page stared back at him. He never sent it. The deadline came and went. Thomas tried again when a woman at the market smiled at him. She seemed kind, warm. For days, he rehearsed what he might say. He imagined their conversation 100 different ways. But when he finally saw her again, his throat closed. His mind flooded with fears. What if she thinks I'm strange? What if I say something stupid? He walked past her in silence. She never knew he existed. His heart grew heavier. Why was this so hard? Why couldn't he just act? Other people seemed to move through life with ease. What was wrong with him? Another chance appeared. His neighbor needed help with a project. Thomas knew he could do it. He prepared carefully. He made lists. He planned every step. But the night before, doubt crept in again. What if I mess it up? What if I make things worse? He sent a message declining. He watched from his window as someone else helped instead. Thomas sat alone that evening. His chest felt tight. Why do I do this to myself? He whispered. Why can't I just live? The questions had no answers. Only more questions. He felt trapped inside his own head. A prisoner of thoughts that wouldn't stop. One afternoon, Thomas walked through the town garden, his mind heavy as always. An old woman sat on a bench feeding birds. She looked up and smiled. You carry a great weight, young man, she said softly. Thomas wanted to walk away, but something in her eyes stopped him. He sat down. The words poured out. I can't seem to do anything, he said. Every time I try, my mind shows me all the ways it could fail. I prepare and plan and think, but I never actually move. I'm stuck. I don't know what's wrong with me. The old woman nodded. She didn't speak right away. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small glass jar. She filled it with water from a fountain nearby. Watch, she said. She held the jar up to the light. The water was clear, calm, beautiful. This is your mind when you simply observe, she said. Then she began shaking the jar vigorously. The water churned. Bubbles formed. Everything became cloudy and chaotic. And this, she continued, is your mind when you overthink. She placed the jar on the bench between them. They sat in silence. Slowly, very slowly, the water began to settle. The bubbles rose and disappeared. The cloudiness faded. Clarity returned. When you think about a decision, the old woman said gently, you believe you're preparing yourself. You believe you're being careful, wise. But what you're actually doing is shaking the jar. Every thought creates more chaos. Every fear stirs more confusion. You can't see clearly because you won't let the water settle. She looked at Thomas with deep kindness. The truth is this. Action creates clarity, not thought. When you wait for perfect clarity before you act, you wait forever. The water never settles because you keep shaking it. You don't need to think less. You need to act while it's still a little cloudy. Thomas felt something break open in his chest. Tears welled in his eyes. He had spent years believing his thinking was protecting him, but it had been his prison all along. That evening, Thomas made a choice. Not a perfect one. Not a fully clear one. Just a choice. A local cafe needed evening help. He walked in. His mind started its familiar dance of doubts. But he spoke anyway. I'd like to apply. His voice shook, but the words came out. Days turned into weeks. Thomas practiced his new understanding. When his mind began to spiral about a conversation, He spoke before the water got too cloudy. When doubts came about trying something new, he took one small step instead of analyzing. The actions were imperfect, sometimes clumsy, but they were real. Something shifted inside him. The constant tension in his chest began to ease. He felt lighter, freer, like he had been holding his breath for years and finally exhaled. The world around him seemed different too. Opportunities he never noticed before appeared. Conversations flowed more naturally, not because the world changed, but because he was finally present in it. One morning, months later, the woman from the market approached him. "You helped my friend at the cafe," she said. "She speaks highly of you. Would you like to get coffee sometime?" Thomas smiled. The very connection he had once frozen over was now coming to him naturally, not because he had planned it, but because he had stopped planning and started living. He thought of the old woman and her jar. He understood now. Life had always been waiting. He just needed to stop stirring the water. Years passed gently. Thomas never forgot that afternoon in the garden. He shared the lesson with others who seemed trapped in their own minds. The story of the jar became something he carried with him. A reminder, a gift. He would sometimes see the old woman in town. She would nod knowingly. Her wisdom had taken root. It was growing in others now. Thomas would tell people, "The clearest path appears when you stop demanding perfect clarity." He said it with reverence, with gratitude, with the quiet peace of someone who had been freed. Now, dear listener, perhaps you see yourself in Thomas. Perhaps you know the weight of overthinking, the endless loops, the paralysis. It's exhausting, isn't it? Trying to think your way to certainty before you move. But here's what you need to know. You're not broken. You're just shaking the jar. Every time you replay a conversation that hasn't happened yet, you're shaking it. Every time you imagine all the ways something could fail, you're shaking it. And the water never settles. The truth is simple. Action brings clarity, not the other way around. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to take one step while it's still a bit unclear. Tonight, before you sleep, choose one small thing you've been overthinking. One message you haven't sent. One call you haven't made. One tiny step you've been avoiding. Don't wait for the doubts to disappear. They won't. Just do it while the water is still cloudy. You have more power than you think. Your thoughts are not your master. They're just water in a jar. And you get to decide when to stop shaking it. If this story touched something in you, let me know in the comments. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe so we can walk this path together. I'll see you in the next story. Remember this, the life you want is waiting. It's waiting for you to stop thinking about living and simply start.